So we're back, race week is over. My channel is honestly blown up all week, and a lot of you watching this have probably never seen any of this before or know what I do outside of that event because you're new here. And if you are new here, I'm glad to have you, and I'm about to explain what my future plans are for that thing, maybe give you a little backstory on it, and just kind of fill you in on the blanks of what you might be curious about because you've just now found my channel and kind of might wonder what's going on. My main goal here with this channel is to provide entertainment with value. Like, you should learn something when you watch my videos, no matter what that is. Like, take something away from what I'm doing or saying and apply it to your own life to do something better than you have been doing it. That's my main goal here. That's what I want to see you doing. And I just think that's the coolest thing ever, because I've inadvertently found a platform to speak from to a lot of people just by doing what I like to do. And I feel it's my obligation to do something useful with it, because people get up on these pedestals and they think that they're all that, and they don't care about anyone else. They just show you what they're doing because they like the numbers and makes them feel good and all this stuff. And I think that's BS, honestly. Like, there is no this without you watching it. So why don't you get something too? That's what I'm about. As far as the Escalade goes, it survived the week, which is awesome. I did it on the same 4 tires. I never changed my tires. The only problem I had all week was before I even ran, I noticed a cracked brake rotor. So I fixed that real quick on day 1. And on the last day, my exhaust fell off, which is, you know, whatever. I don't really think that counts as a problem. It's just something stupid. I fixed it in the pits, but I never had to even pull out the toolbox besides that. Like, all I did was pull out my 3/4 wrench, tighten down the chains in the front before I make a pass, and just let it roll, one and done. After turning it up on the last day and knocking out that 950 and the 940, spinning both times, I see the writing on the wall that this thing could run an 8 really easily, and we're gonna do it. My plan is to get this thing ready to run 8-second passes at FL2K. That's the goal. To do that, I need to make new downpipes out of thicker aluminum because that one's messed up. I gotta check everything. I got some weird oil leak out of one of the head bolts on the valley. Like, every day before I make a pass, I'd have to like stick a paper towel in there, like absorb it. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I'll show you. It had been like this for a while. Like, I noticed it driving around because before race week, I daily drove this thing for like a week just to kind of like feel out, see what it was gonna do. It's really weird. Like, when it gets warm, I'll get like, see down in there? There's like this little oil puddle. I think I've had like a perpetual oil leak on this thing forever, and I could never figure out where it was coming from. And I think that's it, because I think it builds up there and then runs down the valley cover between the head and the valley cover, and then drips down off the block. It doesn't actually drip like on the ground, but just like the bottom of the pan, and like it's all just kind of soggy under there, and I could never figure out why. So I'm gonna fix that, which may require the heads to come off, which might be the worst thing ever, because I haven't touched this motor in 2 years, which is crazy. Like, the driver's side header and valve cover, I have not touched the bolts in 2 years. That's how awesome this setup has been. It's pretty much just been a year of working out transmission issues, which once I made the switch from Rossler to Extreme Automatics, that changed the game completely. Lonnie at Extreme Automatics is like the 4L80 wizard. Like, Carl Rossler couldn't figure out how to get a 4L80 to hold 1100 horsepower, this thing, for more than like 5 wide open poles. It was freaking ridiculous. And I actually called Extreme Automatics after Rossler told me to get bent. He couldn't figure it out. Meanwhile, he told me that it would hold 2,000 horsepower, no problem, when I bought it. And it didn't even hold 1,100 for freaking 5 runs. It was the stupidest thing ever. So I wasn't gonna buy a 400 from him, which is what he told me I needed. So I called Extreme Automatics, and Lonnie picks up the phone, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get a quote on a 400. And he's like, oh, what's it in? You know, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I got this 4L80, it's not holding up. He's like, who built it? Rossler. Well, what's happening to it? And I explained it to him. You know how like the direct clutches were burning up, it would mess up the converter and the rear planetary gears would melt. And he's like, oh dude, that's a really common problem. Like, I'll tell you right now, like, not a lot of people have this figured out, but it's a valve body thing. And he's like, you don't need a 400, let me fix the 80. And I was like, are you sure? Okay. And I trusted him because he could have made more money selling me a 400. That's what I came there asking for, and he told me I didn't need it. He did not sell me what I was asking for. Instead, I spent less money with him to have him redo this one the correct way, and it worked. So for that, I'm eternally grateful for Lonnie at Extreme Automatics. And if you have a 4L80 that you want built for anything that holds a good amount of power, like, he sells his valve body separately, so you can like put it on yourself, or you can build the whole transmission. I paid for that stuff. He didn't give it to me for free. This plug is an honest plug because he made my life easier. It changed the game for this thing from the day I put it in there. I messed up the direct clutches once from just abuse, and we turned up the line pressure because it didn't have enough pressure, and it held so well that it actually broke the gears after that. Like, it broke the planetary gears, which doesn't really happen that much. So from there, we redid it with billet, like straight cut Pro Mod planetaries from a 400, and he had like Frankenstein the center section to have a 400 center section. Like, this thing's basically a turbo 400 stuffed into a 4L80 case. The only thing original on it left is the case and the pump. That's it. So this thing is a freaking unit, and that's how it's been since then. That's how it's living, and we just hit it with 27 pounds peak, 24 down the track on those last two passes. Like, whenever it spun, it ramped up to 27, and then down the track it made 24, which is 1500 wheel, I think, at 24 pounds. I can't remember, but yeah. So do all that, check the motor out, make sure it's good. Like, and when I say I haven't touched it in 2 years, I have not touched it in 2 years. Like, I haven't retorqued the head studs, I haven't touched the rockers, nothing. All I have done is put oil in it. Like, so it could use a little bit of checking up just to make sure it's all good. I gotta go over like my steering components, make sure those are okay. I put tie rod sleeves on it back in like February, and they helped a ton. I did the Spawn tubular control arms back then too, because my stock ones were literally like breaking the factory rubber bushings from the launch. It was pretty crazy. I mean, aside from that stuff, there's really not a whole lot this thing needs to run 8s. Besides, one thing that'll help a lot is a transfer case shifter, because right now I do not have a way to shift the transfer case from inside the truck. I have to lay on the ground and put my hand up in there and then push the lever forward to put it in 4 high before I make a pass. And I can't do a burnout like that. I mean, I probably could, but you may not know this, it's not good to do a 4-wheel drive burnout. It's like really hard on all that stuff. So what you're supposed to do is put it in 2-wheel drive, get your back tires sticky, and then put it in 4 high and launch. Because the way this works with the 4x4 locked in, it's an even split no matter what's going on. So if the back tires are sticky, even if the front ones start to want to spin, the back is still going to propel the truck forward, and the front ones will eventually catch up from momentum. Because with the factory transfer case in this thing, once the front tire would start to spin, all the power would just go to that tire, which is why I went to a manual 4x4 setup. And that's the way to go for racing. I don't care what anybody says, because if you spin the front tires, the back ones are going to keep pushing. That's why it's like that. So I need to be able to do a burnout, get the back tires sticky. That way when I launch, they're continuing to go. Because during both of those passes where I turned it up, the first pass, it just straight up knocked the tires off. I pedaled it and it still went 950. And the second one, I felt it start to haze. Like I felt it start to skate. So when it started to skate, I hit second early to like catch it up, and it did. It still skated. Like you can see in the video that there's like lines coming out of the back tires that are not in the same path as the front, which is pretty freaking wild to think that this thing was skating past the 60-foot mark. But that's how it was. So if I get the back tire sticky, it won't do that anymore because I can actually launch hard. And it really doesn't need any more power to run 8s. It just needs to launch better and not do that, because that was a 155 and a 157 60 foot, which are not even this thing's best. I never really tried, but it's still been a 148. So put it all together, this is an 8-second machine all day. And now, after seeing that, I have faith that this driveline will hold what I want to throw at it, because whew, when it lit up to 27 pounds, I was like, oh my God, because the most my butt dyno has ever felt in this thing was like 21. And that was an insane difference. To put that into perspective, it makes literally almost on the dot 40 horsepower per pound of boost. And it was still making 40 per pound of boost at the 27 PSI mark. This thing is a freaking monster, and I can't wait to just let it do its thing, because honestly, it's been a heck of a journey between all the the transmission issues, and just like the last year has been a learning curve. But we finished race week, 1,200 miles on the street, 9-second average, and we end the week knocking off a 950 and a 940 to 150 miles an hour, or like 120 and 121 to the 8th spinning. Man, can't ask for much more than that. You might wonder, why did I pick this thing to make a race car out of? Well, it was my daily driver. My dad actually bought it to be his work vehicle and then kind of like never used it. So I started messing with it, because I was like, well, if he's not going to use it, he's never going to know if I mod it, because I wasn't allowed to mod it. And that was kind of like how that was supposed to work. Was he had a car that he drove, and he would just use this whenever he needed to go on like business trips and carry his leak detectors, because he sells like industrial vacuum equipment for like semiconductor manufacturing and stuff like that. So he's had a Suburban my entire life, literally. When I was born, he had a 95 Suburban, and I loved that thing. I was like obsessed with it. And whenever he sold it, I was crying about it, and I hated it. And then he got a 2003 Yukon XL, red one, barn doors. And my uncle still actually has that one, and he just got a new one. He's supposed to give it to me. So I may actually build the old Yukon that I rode around in when I was little, which would be really awesome, but we'll come back to that later. When he sold that one to my uncle, he got a 2008 Suburban, a white one, and that eventually became like my pseudo first car. Whenever I got my driver's license, I drove that to school, and I like unbolted the flex pipe like a little jackass and made all kinds of noise. I blew up a couple 4L60s, and I actually I went to put a Corvette servo in it, and I didn't. I just thought you could take it off and put it in and it'd be fine. So I just slid under there and went to do that while he was out of town, of course, because I didn't tell him about anything. Otherwise I wouldn't have been allowed to do it. And I popped it off, and it started leaking fluid like on me. I'm like, oh crap, I wasn't ready for this. So I put it back on, and I was like, I'll do it later. Well, when I put it back on, I don't think I got the snap ring seated the whole way. And a couple days later, I was driving around, and it popped out, and the transmission blew up. And this was like, I don't know, a month and a half after it just got rebuilt from the first time I blew it up. And I told my dad I didn't know why it happened. If he watches this video, this will be the first time he found out that it was actually my fault. He probably knew, but just never really grilled me on it. Because when they took it back to the dealership, they were like, well, this thing popped out of the side. That's probably why it blew up. And my dad was like, you know anything about that? I'm like, I don't know. I think, when they rebuilt it, maybe they didn't get it in the whole way. Like, it just started slipping for no reason. I couldn't tell you why. But, yeah, that's why. It was my fault. I've been a Suburban guy from day one. I've always loved these things. And every time, you sit there in my comments, tell me, you put that in the Fox body, you should put that in an S10, and you put it in something lighter and go faster. You totally missed the point. Totally. I don't care. You don't think I know that already? You don't think I know that setup could go 6s in like a chassis car, like a really light Fox body? Because it absolutely could. That's not the point. The point is to take this and make it fast, because I like it. And the whole trend with drag racing, this is some key information right here, so take notes. The interest level of drag racing is completely dependent over time of how much difficulty you can throw into something and still make it fast. Like for example, you go back to like the 70s with like the rail dragsters and stuff, that was like all cool. And then, you know, you start making real cars fast. So you got like real body cars going fast, and that's cool. Okay, well then that gets kind of boring. So let's take these real cars and put them on the street. And then you got things like drag week coming up, where that's real popular because you can take your car, still go fast, and drive it on the street. Okay, well then cue street outlaws. Okay, you get your real car, you can drive it on the street. Well, now you got to race it on the street where it's not sticky, so we're going to add that level of difficulty too. It's just, what can you throw in there to turn out the difficulty and still go fast? Because fast is relative. None of these street car things can hold a candle to like an actual dragster, but no one cares because it's under this like circumstance of rules and expectations to go a certain amount of speed. So in the future, I'm calling this right now, the future is going to be trucks, SUVs, useful stuff. How fast can you go with that? Because it follows the trend of how much crap you can throw into something and still make it fast while overcoming more difficulty, because people naturally like watching people overcome difficulties. Another thing to note is that just look at the cars on the road. Back in the 70s and 80s, everybody drove a car, like a real car. Now, go out on the road, everything is trucks, SUVs, crossovers. People don't just bop around in sedans anymore like they used to. It's a different world. So the racing world is kind of behind the pedestrian world, because the pedestrian world is where the future race cars come from. So all the old race cars people have now they were like regular cars back in the 70s. Like, you know, cars that weren't cool back then are cool now just because they're old. So as time moves on, there's more and more trucks out there. More and more people are going to be making trucks, racing trucks, doing fun stuff with their trucks. And I'm telling you that right now, you can come back to this video years from now and be like, that guy had it figured out. Because I just know that's where it's going. And if you want to build a truck, I think now's the best time to do it, because that interest level is only going to keep going up. And that's a pro tip. You can have that one for free. If you've seen my other videos, if you haven't, you should go watch them. There's a lot of backstory and all this other stuff. I got like a 30-minute video explaining like in detail of how this thing kind of came to be. And, you know, hit that subscribe button, turn the little bell thingy on so you know when I post stuff. Like, make a comment if you have a legitimate observation about what I could be doing better or do more of or do less of. Like, let me know. I want to know about it. I want to do the best I can.